called Cap-o'-Rushes. It's an English story. Once there was a very rich man who had 3 daughters, and he asked the oldest one, "How much do you love me?" And she said, "Oh, father, I love you more than all the world." Then he said to the second oldest one, "How much do you love me?" And she said, "Father, I love you more than life itself." He was quite pleased. Then he said to the third one, "How much do you love me?" And she said, "Father, I love you more than fresh meat loves salt." "What?" he said. "Out, out! You don't love me at all. Get out!" And he shut the door on her face. And there she was, standing outside her home in these beautiful clothes that the father had provided for her. And she thought to herself, "What am I going to do? I have to find work." She walked along and she came to a fen, and she thought, I'll never get a job wearing these fine clothes, but if I make a cape or rushes, I'll be able to hide them. So she did. She picked some rushes from the fen and made her head covering and a cloak, and she went to the next big house, knocked on the door and said, "I need work." And they said, "Well, we don't have any work for you." And she said, "Look, I'll do any kind of work. I'll scrub the floors. I'll scrub the pots and pans." And said, "You will?" "Oh, yeah, and I don't need any pay, just as long as I can get in." So they decided that they would let her come. And since they never asked her her name, they called her Cap-o'-Rushes. Well, time passed, and there was going to be a series of 3 dances in the nearby village, and even the servants were invited to go into the gallery of the hall and watch all the fine people in their fine clothes and listen to the beautiful music. The servants were really excited about this dance. The night of the dance came, everyone left. But Cap-o'-Rushes said, "You know, I'm very tired. I think I'll just stay home tonight and go to bed." So everybody from the house went to the dance. Cap-o'-Rushes went in. She took her cape off, took the head covering off, washed her face, and there she was in her finery. And she went down to the village hall where the dance was, and she walked in. And the moment she walked in, the master's son got his eye on her, and he fell in love with her right away. And he danced every dance with her. And at the end of the night, just before it was time to go home, Cap-o'-Rushes slipped out, and she got home back to the house, and she got back into her Cap-o'-Rushes, and she pretended to fall asleep. And when the servants came in, they found her asleep. So the next morning, they told her all about this beautiful lady with whom the master had danced every dance, and nobody knew where she came from. Now, the next night, again, everybody was going to the dance, and Cap-o'-Rushes said, "I'm terribly tired. I'm going to sleep." As soon as everyone was out of the house, she washed her face and she took off the Cap-o'-Rushes, and she went down to the dance. The master's son saw her, and he danced every dance with her. And then again she slipped away before the dance ended, back into her Cap-o'-Rushes. And when the servants came back, there she was sleeping. Now the third night, again, everyone went to the dance. Cap-o'-Rushes said, "I'm too tired to go. I'm going to bed." As soon as everyone was out of the house, there she was. She washed her face and then took off the caparushes, went down to the dance, and the master's son saw her and he said, "Oh, please, may I have this dance?" And he danced all night. But this night, he gave her a ring, and he said, "I do hope I'll see you again." And she smiled and she said, "That would be nice." She again, before midnight, she was took off her, put on her caparushes, and fell asleep. And the servants came home again the next morning. They said, "You know, the master's son, it looks as if he's really fallen in love with this lady." And he said if he doesn't see her again, he didn't want to go on living. And actually what happened was he took to his bed because he was lovesick. He was absolutely heartsick. Well, the cook said, "I have a special recipe of gruel, and maybe that will give him some strength and give him back the desire to live again." And she was making this gruel when Caparushes came in and said, "What are you doing?" And the cook told her, "I'm making this gruel because the master's son looks as if he's really lovesick and we don't know if we'll have him much longer, and I think this will give him strength." And Caparushes said, "Oh, could I make a special recipe of gruel for him?" Well, the cook wasn't too happy about this, but eventually she did. She gave in and she said, "Okay, then try your hand." And she took the gruel up. But when the cook's head was turned, Caparushes put the ring into the gruel. The cook took the gruel up to the master's son. He drank it and he discovered the ring and he said, "Who cooked this gruel?" And they said, "Oh, cook, send her to me immediately." The cook came up and he said, "Who cooked this gruel?" And she said, "I did." And he looked at her and said, "No, you didn't. No. Who cooked it?" So eventually she had to say, "It was Caparushes." And he said, "Send her." And Caparushes came up and he said, "Where did you get this ring?" And she said, "He who gave it to me gave it to me." And he said, "Where did you get this ring?" And then she took off her caparushes, and there she was, standing in her beautiful dress. And he said, "Ah, at last I found you." So after a while they decided to get married. Now, before the marriage took place, Caparushes went to the cook and said, "Now, you are going to cook this feast, and I want you, for every single dish that you cook, I do not want you to put a mite of salt in it." And the cook said, "Oh, that would be a disaster." Caparushes said, "No, I mean it. Not a mite of salt." Well, the day came, marriage took place, the reception was there, so was Caparushes' father in the group of guests. And he tasted the food. He tasted the next course, there was still no salt. And then he began crying and he said, "Oh, goodness gracious me, I had a daughter. She may be dead now, but she told me that she loved me as much as fresh meat loved salt. But no." And Caparushes just went up to him and said, "Father, your daughter is not dead. I'm your daughter." And they embraced, and the reconciliation took place, and communication started all over again, and they lived a happy life together.